My late friend, a child of the 60s of course, John O'Connor, once said to me, "The solution to pollution is revolution." Well, may I counter that, John, with sometimes, in order to be stable, you have to pay attention to the fable on the table. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, lead, and inspire. And occasionally, or more often than we don't do it enough, is we need to look back at some wisdom of the ages. And I've been looking back at some of Aesop's fables and seeing how they would correspond to some of today's issues. Let's take a quick look. A crow, half dead with thirst, came upon a pitcher which had once been full of water. But when the crow put its beak into the mouth of the pitcher, he found that only very little water was left in it, and he could not reach far enough down to get at it. He tried and he tried, but at last he had to give up in despair. Then a thought came to him, and he took a pebble and dropped it into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and another and another and another and another. At last, he saw the water mount up near him, and after casting in a few more pebbles, he was able to quench his thirst and save his life. Moral of the story? Little by little does the trick. So how does that correspond to today's times? Little by little does the trick. We have to, as a society, grasp what it's going to take to overcome this virus. And that means not succumbing to the temptations of going into crowds, going into bars, restaurants, things of that nature, because then we become spreaders of the virus. It's kind of as simple as that. And you saw that in New York City, which was hit terribly when this thing first started, that when they started using that kind of a strategy, they were able to get things under control. And why is it so critical that we get things under control? Because in order to effectively be able to trace this virus, we must have smaller numbers. So we're going to have to take a quick hit, but if we maintain our vigilance, we will be able to solve this thing. Let us continue. An ass once found a lion skin which the hunters had left out in the sun to dry. He put it on and went towards his native village. All fled at his approach, both men and animals, and he was a proud ass that day. In his delight, he lifted up his voice and brayed. But then, everyone knew him, and his owner came up and gave him a sound cudgeling, whatever that word means, for the fright he had caused. And shortly afterwards, a fox came up to him and said, "Ah, I knew you by your voice." The moral of the story? Fine clothes may disguise, but silly words will disclose a fool. You know what? My point with this particular fable is take a look at the politicians that you're voting for this very week at all levels, and make sure that they're not just dressed up nicely, that their actions are going to match their words, and that their words are worthy of your vote. Once upon a time, there was a miser who used to hide his gold at the foot of a tree in his garden. But every week, he used to go and dig it up and gloat over his gains. A robber who had noticed this went and dug up the gold and decamped with it. When the miser next came to gloat over his treasures, he found nothing but the empty hole. He tore his hair and raised such an outcry that all of the neighbors came around him, and he told them how he used to come and visit his gold. "Did you ever take any of it out?" one of them asked. "Nay," said he, "I only came to look at it." "Then come again and look at the hole," said a neighbor. "It will do you just as much good." Moral of this story: wealth unused might as well not exist. What's the pertinence of this particular story? We in this country are incredibly wealthy with stuff, but most importantly, we're wealthy with people that are knowledgeable, with experts, with scientists. And if we don't follow what they're saying, how they're guiding us, they may as well not exist. They've predicted all along what was going to happen. Boom, it's happened. It's time for us to pay attention to the people that know, that are experts, and not those that want to embrace wishful thinking. Sometimes science is right. This is one of those times. This week we're voting. I just wanted to give you some thoughts. We'll continue, and what's great about this is these are thoughts from the 6th century BC. These are Aesop's fables. So the moral, the lesson, is still pertinent today. And because we will never end a meeting on a philosophical note, we at Project Today Rely, Rant, Educate, Lead, and Inspire, tell you to get out there and take charge. I'm Eli's dad.